Kunigami Rensuke has been the only character to be eliminated and returned to BLUELOCK, having a second chance at becoming the best striker in the world. A character many fans were sad to see, but even happier to come back. The hype around this new Kunigami and the first return from BLUELOCK was actually unreal. Was he gonna be the strongest? What new weapons did he gain? Why is he emo? There was so many questions and so many expectations for Kunigami, so where did it all go wrong? From only scoring from assists, losing 1v1s, 2 years of little to no development, and having the most disappointing return, Kunigami was under a lot of hate. But recently, things have changed as Kunigami in the PXG game has been doing really well to the point of being the star of almost every single chapter. A complete turning point for his character, Kunigami is now redeeming himself for all the previous chapters before, and it's only the start of the game. So your boy is here to analyze and show how Kunigami has redeemed himself in just one chapter, from being one of the most hated characters in the series, an underdeveloped mystery for over 2 years, to having one of the best performances in the best game, finally getting the development he deserved. We'll be discussing his rivalry, which is the best matchup in BLUELOCK, his ego, which has been a big question for so long now, and predicting what this means for his character going into the World Cup. Kunigami's downfall or redemption needs to be studied, and your boy is here to study it. Full Spark Notes Harvard study on how one chapter changed everything for the cyborg hero. Before we get into the chapter and how he was actually redeemed, we need to know why he needed redemption in the first place, both plot-wise and fanbase-wise as well, because Kunigami has been the punching bag of the community for the longest time. But something you guys need to punch as well is that subscribe button. You know we make all the BLUELOCK content here, from theories to discussion videos just like this, so if you enjoy BLUELOCK, make sure to hit the sub button so you don't miss any of it, and you can join the community. Anyways, Kunigami has been a character since the first selection, having this sort of nice guy persona. You guys already know all of this, so I don't have to go in much detail. It really all starts for Kunigami in the wild card, where Kunigami lost in the second selection due to Shido Ryusei, and instead of exiting the facility, he goes down the path of the wild card for a second chance. While BLUELOCK is playing in the U20 game and going through the third selection, Kunigami is training and quite literally fighting for his life in the wild card, and he makes a triumphant return in the Neo Egoist League after the U20. Kunigami comes out of the wild card looking like he went through 3 breakups. I guess he did with Isagi, Bachira, and Shigiri, but we can obviously see he's no longer smiling like before and had a major personality change, giving up his hero mentality. Imagine if BLUELOCK lost in the U20 game though. Would Kunigami just have been training for no reason or had a major personality change for no reason? He just gets sent home emo? Anyways, Kunigami's expectations were really high going into the Neo Egoist League, with him saying he's gonna be the best player in the world, performing what no other BLUELOCKer could, and ending 3rd place in a physical training test against NEL level players. It was really impressive from Kunigami, as he is also the only person to take a spot in the starting 11 in Bastard Munin, so expectations, as you can expect, are really high for him. He really just outperformed all the other BLUELOCKers. And this is a post-U20 BLUELOCK. We had players like Isagi, Yukimiya, and Hiyori from Bastard Munin. So a lot of people, including myself, had this impression from what we've seen of Kunigami being one of the top players from BLUELOCK. I mean, he just technically performed better than all of them. He had a whole training arc to himself, he had this major personality change, and he has proven that he can compete with NEL level players. So there was a lot of build-up around this new Kunigami. If you read the manga weekly during this time, you would know what I mean. It's the first match, Bastard Munin versus Barcha, and to be honest, this is already where his downfall begins. Just straight off of the first match, that's probably a feat in of itself. We see Kunigami showing off some of his new abilities, like an ambidextrous shot, a new egotistical mentality, and his physique being absolutely insane. Pretty good abilities if he had more chances to show them off. But besides that, he immediately stumbles out of the gate, losing almost every single 1v1 and right away to Bachira. If I had to guess his win percentage, it would probably be somewhere in the 30% range. And then chapter to chapter, you can just see Kunigami is not doing too much. Literally a mystic man. He just disappears, especially in the Ubers game, where his only feats were stealing a ball from Ness, immediately losing it, and then a defensive feat. So as a striker, you can see what I mean, where they don't showcase the best of his abilities. Kunigami, for a lot of people, was replaceable for the only character to make a return to BLUELOCK and have a second chance at becoming the best striker. Kunigami's ego and purpose was also a very big question during this time, but this gets answered in his redemption, so watch until the end to see how that all plays out. You might think I'm being a little harsh because it's kind of unrealistic for Kunigami to come out as God or significantly better just from the wild card, but we weren't even expecting that at all. I feel like we're not even asking for much here. It wasn't even a debate at the time. Kunigami was the worst out of the Egoist 4. He lacked solo playing abilities like Rin or Isagi, who are his competition for the striker position, and overall was a replaceable character. Basically, people didn't think he needed to return. It's crazy that people didn't even think he needed to return, but that is a very short version of his downfall. There are more feats and other other things we can look at, but end of the story, he was pretty much a massive disappointment for over 2 years. 100 chapters, by the way, which is super long. But we're here to discuss Kunigami's redemption. His character right now, as it's literally happening in real time, the chapters coming out are about Kunigami's redemption, but it is super important to know why he needed redemption in the first place, and the fan base's frustrations with him. Now that that's out of the way though, we can finally get into his redemption of his character, what this means for him moving forward, and answering long-awaited questions we've been waiting for since the return of his character. You're gonna want to watch this all the way through. We knew 2 very important things about Kunigami, the wildcard backstory and his revenge against Shido Ryusei, which would all take place in the PXG match. They purposefully put off his backstory until then, maybe even purposefully made Kunigami a background character until PXG, so now that we're finally here and getting into it, it's time for Kunigami to prove that he isn't a fraud. However, the PXG match started out with Kunigami and Shido having no interactions. In fact, there was no hype being built up or comment from either of the characters. We knew Bastard Munich was reviewing PXG's game tape where Shido was playing, and Kunigami didn't even say anything. I personally thought he would get pissed or have some sort of PTSD at the sight of him. Because of this, people were downplaying Kunigami even more, saying that they don't even care about the revenge matchup. In fact, saying Shido's matchup was against Kaiser and not Kunigami. People have lost so much hope in this character that they don't think he was gonna have a revenge arc against him. They genuinely thought they were just gonna pass by each other and not say anything. The first initial chapters as well avoided this fact. Kunigami wasn't going after Shido and Shido wasn't going after Kunigami. There was zero interaction between them even when Shido scored his first goal. But that would all change with one chapter, the single chapter that redeemed Kunigami and the end of the 2-year wait for his revenge. Chapter 253 of Blue Lock was the start and I believe the most important chapter for Kunigami. You might be wondering why this chapter. There was no action, there was no goal scored. In fact, it was more of a goal celebration chapter for Shido. So why is this Kunigami's most important chapter? It was only 2 pages, but those 2 pages literally revived the Kunigami fandom and gave us what we've been waiting for over 2 years. Kunigami would finally acknowledge and get his matchup against Shido Ryusei in this beautiful double spread where we get a flashback of Kunigami remembering his failure and the confirmation of Kunigami finally going against the demon that sent him down this path. We've been waiting 2 years for this moment, so as someone who does like Kunigami, this is what we as fans have always wanted from him ever since he lost to Shido. And this one chapter would mark the start of the most hyped chapter in Blue Lock, Kunigami versus Shido, with the next chapters immediately picking up with that. We see Kunigami do more in these 3 chapters of the PXG game than he did in all of Manshine or Ubers, and again, this is what we wanted from his character, to show off his abilities and the wildcard training, which we didn't get to see in any of the previous games. Right out of the gate, Kunigami goes straight after Shido, marking him and using his physique to do so, while also having the blacked out flow state eyes. We get some dialogue as well about how Kunigami feels about Shido and himself, saying that his life was literally destroyed because of Shido. And damn, straight going in for the emotional reunion, it's a complete turnaround from the usual dead dialogue we get from him, and it continues to build up the hype for this matchup. His wildcard training pays off, as again, in the next chapter, we see Kunigami being able to fully mark him, not letting him get the insane passes from Charles, and using his ambidextrous skills to do so. So not only are we getting this matchup, Kunigami is finally showing the results of his training, which up until this point hasn't really been shown. I can't express how cool it is to see his character finally doing something. And speaking of the wildcard training as well, it seems that we are bound to get his backstory in this game eventually, which is one of the biggest questions in the series. They really did save all of Kunigami's development until now. However, we're not done yet. It wouldn't just be this rivalry that really redeemed his character. Following the events of chapter 253, we get the acknowledgement of Kunigami's ego, one of the biggest questions surrounding his character. Before PXG started as well, Kunigami was under these testing equipment, but more importantly was told to throw away his own ego. I purposefully didn't mention this until now because this deserves a segment on its own. It's literally crucial for his character. The whole point of Blue Lock is this egoist mentality and finding your own ego, so this confused a lot of us, especially since Ego himself said he was designed to raise the level of the other players. Kunigami's ego has been a big question mark since his return and throughout the NEL games, and that chapter just added another big question mark to it. That is, until we reach chapter 255, the PXG game really seems to be about Kunigami, as Isagi finally acknowledges Kunigami's ego, but specifically his old ego. Isagi sees that Kunigami is performing out of his mind when facing off against Shido, his challenge-based focus. It's not only because of his insane physique allowing him to do so, but the fact that he wants to get revenge. Kunigami is not that deadbeat emotionless player we thought of, but still has this burning passion inside of him which allows him to reach his top performance. And top performance it is because Kunigami blocks Shido on 2 different occasions in the same chapter and also has the regular flow state eyes activated. Isagi sees that Kunigami has an individualistic ego, saying that he hasn't really changed, which is the complete opposite of what we've seen because Kunigami has really just been an emotionless player. Isagi and Kunigami have been close ever since the first election, so Isagi knows best, guess that Kunigami's ego is still in there. It's burning inside of him. In fact, I would say Isagi is the closest to Kunigami, maybe besides Shigiri, but Isagi is definitely up there. The acknowledgement of this is super important for Kunigami as a character, as again, we have known nothing about his ego and have been left with so many questions up until this point. But with Isagi finding out about Kunigami's ego, he's bound to get even more development. My personal theory is that I think this can really only go one way with all the evidence we got from Isagi, and this is the return of old hero Kunigami, the nice guy pre-wild card. It looks like the story is leaning towards Isagi quote-unquote saving him, especially with that old art Isagi calling out to him with a phrase he'd only understand. And man, I just want to talk about that itself. Flashbacking his old design was so good, and then you could just see the glimmer in Kunigami's eye come back when Isagi says that, or at least I believe so. This means we would see old Kunigami come back in some sort of way, with his hero mentality making a comeback, but still keeping the same skills he learned from the wild card. This would 1. Redeem Kunigami, and 2. Make him even stronger than before. Imagine if Kunigami was able to perform like he did in the PXG game for every single game. He would definitely be a threat. I know some people like the emo Kunigami, but I know some people also miss the old hero Kunigami. I think the story will somehow mix the two of them together, and Kunigami will have 2 egos, having his own personal ego, that burning passion and hero from before, but also his new ego raising the levels of other players as stated before as well. Kunigami said that he left his old hero mentality behind when he first met Isagi, so Isagi bringing him back and coming full circle would be a way to wrap up his wildcard arc, and I think that's pretty satisfactory. And I do have to keep clarifying this, him being ego doesn't correlate to his skills. Even after Isagi converts him back to being a hero, he will still keep the same skills and playstyle, in fact probably become stronger because he's going to be able to cooperate with other players and be more reasonable. So not only did one chapter fully acknowledge what we've been waiting for over 2 years, it gave us the start of Kunigami's development and way more as well. We see his skills and training finally be put to use, the first revenge matchup from BLUELOCK, Kunigami's ego, and eventually the wildcard backstory, which many people, including myself, have been waiting a long time for. That one chapter, I believe, redeemed Kunigami's character already from the absolute abysmal tragedy that was his character before, but we are still in this game and need to properly see Kunigami get his redemption, coming back with a superhero mentality. This video is a little early as we've only gotten 3 chapters of Kunigami development at the time of this recording, but I personally think that these chapters have more than already redeemed the Kunigami we have seen. Obviously, we will get more development for him, maybe even scoring a goal or the wildcard backstory, stuff like that, but I think acknowledging and discussing how Kunigami has really changed in these past chapters is always a good topic, as he has been the punching bag at the community for the longest time, so I feel like I gotta stick up for the boy a little bit. If you have any theories on what you think Kunigami's ego will be, or any thoughts on Kunigami's redemption in the PXG game, whether you like it or dislike it, leave it all in the comment section down below. If you watched to the end, I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name's Hiryo, and I'll see you guys next one.